Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Apriana. So I'm going to read the material. The first is reading. Reading is the process of looking at a series of writing symbols and getting meaning from them. When we read, we use our eyes to receive writing symbols like letters, punctuation, marks, and spaces. And we use our brain to convert them into words, sentences, and paragraphs that communicate something to us. Reading can be done silently in our heads or loud so that other people can hear. Reading is an activity with a purpose. A person may read in order to gain information to verify existing knowledge. A person may also read for enjoyment or to enhance the knowledge of the language being read. Reading also plays an important role into civic life, and there is determined where specific information is found. Sometimes the final question accompanying a reading passage or one paragraph of a passage will ask you to determine where in the passage a piece of information is found. Determine the tone purpose, of course. The first is tone. Definition: tone is the attitude or writer takes towards subject. To identify it, meaning read the passage carefully to yourself and identify any direct statement about the subject. Try reading it aloud. Imagine that the author is speaking the words. Use what you have learned to suggest a word others to describe the tone of the passage.
Purpose. An author's purpose is reflected in the way he writes about a topic. For instance, if his purpose is to amuse, he will use jokes or anecdotes in his writing. Clues to an author's purpose may be found in titles, prefaces, and the author's background. An author's purpose, too, is a reason for our intent in writing. The reader, to inform the reader, or to satirize the condition. The purpose of a text simply stated. The purpose of a text is the author's aim or intention in terms of the writing. Questions that can assist you in determining the purpose. Other types of overall review questions occur occasionally in the reading comprehension section. Possible questions of this type are those that ask about, first, the tone of the passage, second, the author's purpose in writing the passage, and third, the course in which the passage might be used. A question about the tone asks if the author is showing any emotion in his or her writing. The majority of the passages tested are factual passages presented without any emotion. The tone of this type of passage could be simply informational. For example, explanatory or factual. Sometimes on the TOEFL test, however, the author shows some emotion and you must be able to recognize that emotion to answer a question about tone correctly. If the author is being funny, then the tone might be humorous. If the author is making fun of something, the tone might be sarcastic. If the author feels strongly that something is right or wrong, the tone might be impassionate.
Then, a question about purpose asks what the author is trying to do in the passage. You can draw a conclusion about the author's purpose by referring to the main idea and the organization of the detail in the pages. For example, if the main idea is that George Washington early life greatly influenced his later career, and if detail give a history of his early life, the author's purpose could be to show how George Washington early life influenced his later career. However, the answer to a purpose question is often considerably more general than the main idea. A more general author purpose for the main idea about George Washington would be to demonstrate the influence of early experience on little life without any mention of George Washington. A question about the course asks you to decide which university course might have this passage as a section reading. You also draw a conclusion about the course by referring to the topic of the passage and the organization of the detail. For example, if the passage is about George Washington and the detail give historical background on his early life, then this will probably his excitement reading in American history class. However, if the passage is about George Washington and the details show the various influence that he had on the information of the American government, then the pages may be an appropriate reading in government or political science class.
Finding the main idea. Finding the main idea of a text is an important skill because it helps us to better understand what we are reading. When determining the main idea, what's the main point that the author wants me to know? These are the strategies that can help us to determine the main idea. First, use the title and heading. If the text has a title or heading, they normally provide some clues as to the main idea. Second, use topic sentence. Another strategy for finding the main idea of a passage is to look at the topic sentence. A topic sentence is the first sentence of the paragraph and it provides the main idea. A good topic sentence on its own must give the reader a clear idea of the content of the paragraph. Third, use concluding sentence. Concluding sentence can also provide some clues as to the main idea, because the last sentence of the paragraph is usually a concluding sentence. Fourth, look for the repeated ideas. All these strategies are important to know as not all strategies will always work. Besides, using multiple strategies together will help us build a more accurate main idea.